All right, good morning. Well, anybody know what Pepsi is? So, first of all, I want to ask, how many people in here are from operations, work in operations? Okay, anybody from sales? See one hand, anybody else from sales? Okay, what I want to try to cover today is how in today's lifestyle of product manufacturing and sales and so forth, it's no longer I work in operations and you work in sales. It's finding out in the success of our company that operations become sales, basically, in order to be successful. So I hope from the end of this, you'll understand more what I'm talking about. Because what I want to try to accomplish today is I'm going to tell you who we are. I'm going to show you what is inside of our supply chain at Pepsi Bottling Ventures and how I redefine my role as demand planning manager to improve the forecast. We're going to touch on our KPIs and metrics, show our results, and then I'll answer any questions at the end of the presentation. My name is Wallace Dement. I am the demand planning manager for Pepsi Bottling Ventures, and we are, of course, manufacturing of soda pop. And I have been with the company going on almost 20 years now, well, 17 years. I've been with them since 1999. So I've seen a lot, done a lot, and been privileged enough to be within the company through our growth in the S&OP process. So a little bit of us as a company. From a corporate history, we started out as a family-owned bottler in the 40s up in Long Island, New York. And over the years, we became a bottler that went out and purchased other bottlers. Because if you know the history of soft drinks with Pepsi and the competition, which I'm not allowed to say, and of course our company does drug testing, and if they find Coke in my system, well then I'm fired, so can't talk about that either. But over the years we acquired other family bottlers because back in the 1800s when Caleb Branham discovered Pepsi or created Pepsi in New Bern, he wanted to distribute it. And of course, with the logistics and so forth of that day and time when we had no S&OP process, in order to get his product out to more and more people, he had to sort of sell his secrets, sell his soft drinks to other families, to other people. They would in turn make the product, distribute in their area, and so forth and so forth. So over the years, through the history of soft drinks, family-owned operations became bigger and bigger and bigger across the country in order to get Pepsi Cola nationwide and so forth. So as the years went by, we started buying up all of the smaller family-run operations and so forth and moving in through different acquisitions. And then in 1999, Suntory, which is a Japanese firm, and PepsiCo struck up a partnership and made Pepsi Bottling Ventures because the company I work for, Pepsi Bottling Ventures, is actually majority owned by Suntory Limited, which is one of the largest beverage manufacturers in Japan, and they're our primary owner. But around 2000, when I started with Pepsi, we implemented S&OP processes and started building on our infrastructure, of course, going with SAP and building a demand planning platform. We do not use SAP for demand planning and logistics, but we do use SAP as our business foundation block for all of our financial stuff and for all of our other aspects of the company. But continuing over the years, we continued to buy up properties and so forth across the country. Then in 2013, some of you might remember from the news, when overnight PepsiCo, which is the parent company of Pepsi, decided to go out and purchase the two largest bottlers of Pepsi Cola in the country, and that was Pepsi Americas and Pepsi Bottling Group, thus buying back their right to make soft drinks, because in the past PepsiCo was just PepsiCo. They told bottlers what to make. They didn't actually have say-so in the actual production of their product. Well, they felt over the years that they were losing more and more control in how they go to market, how different parts of the country promoted their product and so forth, and they wanted it back. So, of course, they go out and buy the two largest bottlers. Well, Pepsi Bottling Ventures was number 3, and we didn't become part of the acquisition of PepsiCo. So that moved us into the number 1 spot of being the largest franchise bottler in the country. Well, during that process, we got to thinking about it and said, okay, how can we better our base, our customer base for our customers and become a better bottler in the Pepsi family? So we sold our New York territory, and we also traded our Idaho and Vermont territories for Charlotte, North Carolina, giving us one of the larger, more concise footprints in North Carolina where we're based out of. And because of that, we made numerous route changes within our North Carolina territory and reintroduced ourselves in the area for Pepsi Bottling Ventures. So because of all of this stuff that's of today, we're now the largest privately held bottler in North America. Our ownership, of course, is about 65% Suntory Limited out of Japan, and about 35% is PepsiCo. We're headquartered in Raleigh, North Carolina. We have 21 manufacturing and distribution facilities that cover North Carolina, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, and South Carolina. We employ about 2,500 people and serving over 9 million consumers within the area. And out of all of this and the size of our company and so forth, the number of supply chain forecasters, 1, and you're looking at them. Yes, I am the demand planning manager for Pepsi Bottling Ventures. I'm responsible for making sure the consumers have product on the shelf. And it's the time we finish this, I hope you understand more about how I survive it and how I don't end up in an insane asylum and so forth. And that's where we get to the point of what my presentation is today. I call it the S&OP, Building a Better Bridge. Reason I ask how many people are in operations and how many people are in sales is because over the years, and especially coming up in this industry and stuff since 1999, it was always operations did their thing, sales did their thing. Sales told us what to make, and we just made it. No questions asked, no pushback, no anything like that. And that's where all the trouble started. So when I took the position of demand planning manager in 2008, our S&OP process had been implemented for about 2.5 years. And first thing the executive team sat me down and said was, make it better. Design it, make it better. We want to see something quickly. So I'm sitting here going, okay, I'm in operations. I've always been in operations. I do what sales tells me to do. I produce the product to make sure they don't run out. Well, how can I make that better? Well, what does sales actually do? How do they do it? So forth like that. I started asking the questions. And that's where I implemented what I'm going to be speaking on today. And so hopefully by the end of this presentation, we will learn how to break down the silos, establish and keep effective communication within your organization, establishing KPIs and metrics and the importance behind them. I'm sorry, I mean, a lot of people go, oh my God, having to track something or keep metrics and so forth. I live by them. I mean, this is my drug of choice is KPIs and metrics because to me, it is the only way to produce results. And then using the results to better your forecast accuracy because we're doing the simple math, better forecast accuracy, of course, makes everything else better and it makes it so I can sleep at night. So within our supply chain, we have a 9-member team centrally located at the corporate office. Our responsibilities include, of course, production planning, full good and raw material forecasting, deployment of product, raw materials, procurement and ordering, non-produced product ordering, contract sales, capacity planning, and so forth. We cover the whole gamut of the supply chain part of the operation. We handle about 600 plus SKUs in multiple size and package configurations, and around 65% of those items are produced with 35% ordered from outside the company. And accurate forecasts are critical in making sure all of these jobs are successful. So, how do I redefine to shine? When they came and told me that I needed to better improve our forecast accuracy and prevent out of stocks, keep the inventories level low, and keep everybody happy. So what I decided to sit down and figure out was try to determine on how supply chain could better input into the sales side and make better business decisions. Because I know with the S&OP process, you hear at times people say that it should be a one world forecast. You should bring in finance, you should bring in operations, you should bring in executive. Everybody roll it into one, sales, everything. And to an extent, that is a good thing to do, but I've learned over the years that that might not be the best thing to do with certain businesses and so forth. It's sort of, okay, you make your forecast, I make my forecast, and we sit down and we discuss it and we come to an agreement. It's not, I'm going to go by finance because they're out there for one thing, and that's to make money. From a supply chain side, is to save money by keeping inventories low, prevent out of stocks, and have the product available to sell. So how do I do that? Okay, let's break it down simply. Everybody knows what knowledge is, and everybody knows what wisdom is. Of course, you get knowledge, if you bring knowledge into your base, then of course from that knowledge you develop wisdom. So everybody knows, if you have knowledge, you know that tomato is a fruit. But if you have wisdom, you know tomatoes will not taste good in a fruit salad, right? So how do you get to these 2 points? How do you take the knowledge that you have acquired? And luckily with Pepsi Bottling Ventures, we invested into it early. We bought the software, we bought the infrastructure, we bought everything. We went out and found the best teams, we went out and found the best people. We hired them, and just to say that we consider that our people are very special, most of the people within Pepsi Bottling Ventures are pushing 35, 40 years with the company. I mean, like I said, I still feel like a rookie because I've been with the company only 17 years. But we bring in the people, we keep them. So we have the knowledge. So with that, we think, okay, we've got wisdom now. We can make everything perfect. Nobody will ever be out of stock. Everybody will have the Pepsi in their hand. Nobody will have out-of-date products. That's where the breakdown in everything started. You can have the best of the best and have the best intentions, but they not always be what's best for your company. And that's what I want to talk about today. Where we got successful was understanding the understanding part, the critical part of how do you take the knowledge you have, turn out the wisdom you need to be successful. This is the part I want to talk to you about today, getting between those 2 points. You've got the talent, you've got the software, you know what you want to do. How do you get there? And so, everybody's seen this on about every presentation about S&OP. It's the dreaded silo effect. You have purchasing, you have marketing, you have sales, and you have operations. Everybody is in their own world. We are a streamlined company. We're all doing multiple jobs. We go in, we put in long hours, and it's our job to make sure that our job is done the best of the best. So you sort of forget about the other departments a lot of times, or you have a very limited communication avenue going between them. So a lot of times it's a lot of roadblocks, a lot of times it's a lot of repeat, unnecessary work. So can anybody relate to this? Anybody in this room go through this on a daily basis, not knowing what marketing's doing, not knowing what operations doing, not knowing what sales? Or is everybody sitting in here working for the perfect company and you don't have any issues? Wow, there's a lot of hands up. So how did I redo it? Okay. I built a bigger pipeline. I went to the executive team, sat down with the CEO of the company, director of finance and stuff, and said, I'm the demand planning manager for operations, but I need to be in purchasing, I need to be in marketing, I need to be in sales, I need to be everywhere. I need to be the liaison between all of these departments. I need to be involved with them, I need to work with them, I need to be a part of them. I don't need to be sitting in my office looking at data every day just on the operations side, just trying to tell the production facility what to do. So in operations, this is what I do. I'm responsible for forecasting all products that we produce and purchase, which a demand planning manager in operations, that's what we do. I handle about 13 weeks worth of forecast data. We look out about 13 weeks. That's as far as we go unless we're doing capacity planning for the year models and so forth. But most of the time from a production standpoint, we work on a 4 to 6 week volume base because we're just-in-time logistics. And if you heard Jeff in the previous presentation, it is product that has short shelf life, so to speak. I mean, we average around 8 weeks on our diets, 13 to 8 to 13 weeks on our diets, and maybe 26 weeks in certain packages on our regular flavors. So, of course, you don't have longevity out there to produce tons of product. We also, in operations, I help production planners make informed decisions for their facilities, and I create And because of all of this, we have a greater than 99% in-stock order fulfillment over the past 3 years, which basically means we've been out of stock less than 1% of the time over 600 plus SKUs over the past 3 years. And first thing everybody thinks about is, God, you must have huge warehouses and just hold tons of product. No, we have very small warehouses. Out of this 21 distribution facilities, you got to remember, we were a company that purchased small bottlers across the country and so forth. And some of these bottlers have been around since, some of them 100 years or more. So very small, out-of-date warehouses where it cannot hold a lot of volume and stuff. So we had to come up with a process to make sure that our forecast accuracies were excellent in order to keep volume low and out of stocks at a very bare minimum. So how did I do that? Well, in the purchasing department, I started analyzing sales data for raw material ordering and so forth. My boss came to me and said, I know you're working with sales numbers, I know you're working with full good products, but you know the sales history of this company. You know what sales do, so I want you to take over in monitoring the procurement of raw materials for us. I said, okay, so I designed these reports that I send to one of our team members that handles ordering all of our raw material forecasts for all of our raw material suppliers. We have to forecast our PET for plastic. We have to forecast our labels for the bottles. There's a lot of different things. I mean, the caps you see on top of the bottles, all those different colored caps you see, they have to be forecasted. So we developed a tool within our system or within our department to help streamline that. More hands-on attention to low volume, high cost items. Jeff touched on this earlier in his presentation as well. We do have items that we choose to run out of stock on before we choose to put a lot of inventory on the floor. And one of the issues that we run into is not necessarily on holding safety stock to a point of how much do you hold. We have some low volume items that a minimum run in units, a minimum run requirement is way more than we need to be in our safety zone, not to run the risk of out-of-date product. So that is our safety stock. A minimum run of certain SKUs, we know 99% of the time before we run out, we're going to see out-of-date product before it gets there. So that's where that's why we started doing a by SKU basis analysis on going, okay, do we really need to carry safety stock on that? Which the answer is no, because we know we'll always produce enough based on current demand. But it's not a low volume item that we want to get rid of. So we choose to rather have a little bit of out-of-date product that goes down the drain than run the risk of taking the flavor completely out of the market. More involvement with decision making for upcoming promotions. So operation is now sitting down at the table more and more on the upcoming promotions that you see out there. I mean, I think USA Today just broke the story this morning about our summertime promotion that is coming out in a few weeks. And so we, from an operations side, are now sitting down with the decision makers saying, hey, look, yeah, it's it's awesome what we're promoting and so forth, but here's the cost of what it's going to cost from an operations side. This is what it's going to cost in changeover times to put the special labels on. Things like that. We're opening up lines of communication more and more with them. Also, longer range data collection for decision making. We were, like I said, a just-in-time production facility that produced based on a couple of weeks. We're now looking out 12 to 13 weeks on our production schedule. Some of our production lines are getting so complex now with all the SKUs that we're producing that some of the production planners are putting together schedules that run 6 to 8 weeks out, and that's basically just trying to squeeze everything in. So we move over to marketing. So now I'm more involved in the new product forecasting. I know we had some questions earlier about how do you handle new product forecasting. In the old days, it was basically in the operations side. I remember when I first moved into the demand planning role, I was handling new product forecasting, but that was one of the things on my tick list that I went back to the executive team and my boss about saying, why am I doing it? I'm in operations. I don't know where they're selling it into. I don't know which stores or chains are going to be carrying it when we release it and launch it and so forth. So it went back to marketing. Our new product forecasting is now done by marketing. They are the ones that sit down with sales. They're the ones that sit down and say, here are the incentives that are going to be coming out to promote the product. This is where it's going. These are the chains that are going to be carrying it. And they give us the new product forecast now, 3 periods out. And then I sit down, look at the numbers, and say, okay, me and my team look at them and we say, okay, yeah, this looks good. Or, well, last time we launched a product like this, they way oversold. Should we increase it a little bit? So once again, we're bringing more and more people into the operations side that previously were not involved with it. And I'm stepping into more and more roles outside of operations. So you're starting to see the coalition starting to form here on some of our success stories. Also, I mean, I am a direct link to marketing incentives now, so I know way beforehand on new products coming out what kind of incentives they're going to be offering to our people in the field. Okay, if you sell, we'll give you $0.25 a case on every extra case you sell, or we'll give you $1 a case on this new product if you sell X amount, if you hit your goal, and so forth. Beforehand, we did not know that. I mean, it was weird. Operations was like, okay, we just ran out of product. We just produced 4 weeks worth of inventory and we ran out in 12 days. What happened? Oh, they decided to put an incentive on last minute. Now they come to me and say, oh, we're planning on putting an incentive on at the last minute. Just wanted to give you a heads up. So open line of communication once again. And we also are taking marketing. We have got the executive team on board on going, okay, they go back to marketing on a quarterly basis now saying, okay, which SKUs are not making it, which are not hitting the thresholds. So on a quarterly basis, we go through our entire portfolio, and if the SKUs are not making it, they're gone. I mean, we take them out of the mix because we know that we're just wasting money taking up shelf space with products that are not selling. So we clean house about every quarter. And sometimes we clean out SKUs that we found out later on we have to bring back because there's one chain somewhere that has to carry it. There's one hospital somewhere that 2 of their patients love it, so we got to carry it. So it's a lot of decision making on that aspect, but at least we don't just produce and let it go and never think about it again. We also do a lot of tracking and analysis on new products because I heard a bunch of questions in the earlier presentation about, well, how do you forecast a new product? And it's a Yahtzee cup every day. I mean, you roll the dice and you hope you've covered all your bases, and it's a lot of analysis to keep up with to make sure that you're doing what needs to be done to make the product successful. So, and this is probably one of my most proudest achievements was becoming more of a salesperson because now I literally went out and developed a one-on-one relationship with every key account manager we have in the company for all of the major chains. I mean, I know everybody in here has heard of Walmart. We have a huge southeastern chain called Food Line, which is our grocery store chain. We have Target. I mean, all those key account managers that call on all those accounts, I became friends with, basically. I mean, take them out to lunch, go meet with them, set up meetings, whatever, just to get to know their personalities, just to get to know who they are, and just to develop a one-on-one business relationship. I take market tours, see how things are done, because I can sit in, as they like to call it, the ivory tower of people in the rest of our company, because we have a nice corporate headquarters. They say we're all sitting up in the ivory tower, and we're not in the working class anymore, I guess you could say. But I go out on market tours to see how things are done. I understand what displays look like. I know what they're going to be doing for the Super Bowl. Super Bowl might have been just down. That is our largest holiday of the year. We live for the Super Bowl. Wish I could say, go Panthers, we at the ring, but nope. Also, if it's a sales meeting going on, 9 out of 10 times you're going to see me sitting in it because I want to know what's happening on the sales side because I'm ultimately responsible for making sure the product is available to put on the shelves. So I need to know. So I go. And I've sort of sort of became a fixture in the sales side that about 6 to 8 months ago, the CEO of the company came to me and said, well, look, why don't I just let you see it from the start, and that way you know everything that's going on. So I'm proud to say I am now part of the executive level quarterly account review, which this is when all the directors of all of our chains, like grocery director, mass and supercenter, drug and convenience store, and dollar channel, all those guys come to the corporate headquarters, they sit in the executive boardroom, and they basically sit there and tell the CEO, the CFO, and all the top level guys, this is how we're going to make you money next quarter. This is what we're going to do. This is how our margin is going to come in. This is our profitability. This is how we're going to make plan, and so forth. And that used to be a top secret meeting. Nobody knew about it. I now sit in it, and I'm like sitting here going, wow. So I'm getting all this information now. Used to, when I first started, I was lucky to get 4 weeks worth of data. I'm now up to getting a whole quarter's worth of data. So talking about making my life a whole lot easier, I now have a expanded window of opportunity to look out 12 weeks, and I know what kind of ads are coming down the pike. I know who's going to be hot. I know who's not going to be. I know what package is going to be, like really needed over the next 12 weeks. So it was just amazing the avenues that were opened up. So expanded from 4-week sales activity to 12 weeks. And that stuff used to be so secretive. Ask a salesperson, hey, what is this account going to do over the next 4 weeks? Well, I can't tell you that. It might leak out, or the competitor might get it, or they might try to match it, and so forth. But through a lot of effort and so forth, I earned the trust. Going back up to number one, I developed a one-on-one relationship. So now I'm part of the sales team. I'm part of the solution. I'm not part of the problem anymore. So that was probably one of the biggest things that we did as a company, was to put myself more into the sales position and less into the operations position. So our success comes from supply chain touching all the major parts. Now, I know a lot of you are global. A lot of you work with global companies. It's like, well, how can I talk to a salesperson that's 4,000 miles away? It's the day of computers, guys. It's simple. It's just opening up a line of communication via email, Skype, anything like that. Until, in my opinion, as a demand planning person, as a forecasting person, until you can better understand the causes and effects of forecasting, you can't improve your forecasting. So I'm just saying, from our standpoint, we reached out and became part of all the entities within our company. So, tracking to improve. We've got a successful strategy set up. So how do we know it's working? At warehouse level, we track, monitor days supply, out of stocks, and end dates. At production facilities, we track and monitor schedule revisions, schedule attainment, brand changes, package changes, and run sizes. And at the distribution level, we also track and monitor payloads, freight costs, and sourcing. None of this would be possible without accurate forecast. It's always going to go back to that. It's always going to go back is, how can I get that forecast accuracy up? Because as long as I can make great forecast and everything is where it needs to be, everything else runs smoother. We grease the wheel. So with Pepsi being more of a sports-oriented style organization, a couple of years ago I did a presentation for the IBF, and it was more on our scorecard tracking that I had set up to get sales more involved, and I just wanted to bring that back into the presentation. What this is a weekly scorecard that I send out to the field. It goes to the sales side of the operation, and they can see how their warehouse or distribution center is tracking on their forecast accuracy. And it gives you the current weekly forecast accuracy score, prior week and prior year, so they can compare how they were doing versus last year. Because like I said, you think of Pepsi, you think of sports. We're really involved with about every aspect of the sporting industry out there. We're somewhere involved with it. So think about the people working for the company. 99.9% of them are probably diehard sports fans. So when it came to tracking their accuracies and their success, what better way than do a sports theme that would go out on a weekly basis in a scorecard style, sports card style setting, and it really got them into it. Now I've got RSMs that are betting with each other. Hey, I can beat you next week on forecast accuracy. Or, seriously, they have turned it into a competition, and I'm sitting in my office with this big grin on my face because the more competitive they get, the easier my job gets, because it means they're paying attention to their forecast. They're looking at it, they're reviewing it, they're studying it, and they're analyzing it. It's not just left up to me. All right, so I also give them last year's scorecard, which gives them their top score, worst score, year-end score, and number of weeks above target. Our target is greater than 80% on a weekly basis, like I said. Within the 20% margin of error, usually you don't see really high out of stocks. You really don't see a lot of issues, a lot of problems. Might be specific warehouses, the smaller warehouses that can't hold as much volume might see some out of stock problems, but our larger distribution facilities that handle 400,000 and 500,000 cases a week, you don't see that much problems as long as it stays within the 20% margin error. So my job is based on keeping it above 80%. So I even give them bragging rights. This is the last card of their scorecard where it gives them for the week the big hitter. It tells them who was the best warehouse, who had the top accuracy, the top percent good. We also, besides the accuracy, we track percent good, which basically in a nutshell means out of the 600 SKUs, how many of those SKUs within that group scored above 80%? Because you can have an 80% forecast accuracy just by making sure all your key packages score high. And the smaller packages you forget about. But with the percent good tracking, that also gives us the ability to look down at, okay, those small packages might be doing 60%, but just think about how the overall forecast accuracy would be if we could clean up the small packages, get a better forecast on them, and bring it up to 70 and 75%. So that way, we're sort of doing a double net to give us more visibility on how to improve. So who sees this? You can do all the work you want to on putting together these fancy scorecards or eye-catching scorecards or the ones with the bells and whistles and the big bangs and noisemakers and stuff. But if only the guy that unloads the truck down at the warehouse is going to be the only one looking at it, what kind of benefit have you accomplished except you just wasted an hour or two collecting the data? But through our pushing and so forth, this scorecard and tracking system goes all the way up to the executive team. And if you want to make RSMs, which are our regional sales managers, sit up and take notice and pay attention to their forecast, let them get a call from the CEO saying, what happened last week? So we have really pushed to get the executive team more and more involved with it. And through our success and so forth, they are more involved with it. They are taking a big interest in it. If I'm not at a sales meeting, I'm usually asked, was there something wrong? Why wasn't I there? When you're missed in a department you're not even part of, that's when you know you're doing something right. And that's what I like about the job that I'm in. But all of this I've been talking about, I guess we have to ask the question, does it work? When we started out in 2006 with our S&OP process, we were looking at 350 SKUs. We had a day supply of 15 to 20 days, and the best we could squeak out was a 77.6%. After the implementation of all the things that we've done over the past few years and so forth, last year with 600 plus SKUs, a day supply down to 7 to 10 days is all we handle in our company. We have an 83.1% forecast accuracy, which was almost a 6% increase from when we started tracking this. Now, I'm happy to say that since 2006, when we started tracking, the 83 is the highest we've ever hit in forecast accuracy over total company. And there's a lot that goes into that number with not just by SKU, but we have to track it by market, we have to track it by key account. All those things roll together, so there's tons of things, different percentages that all roll up into getting that. So that was not an easy achievement, but we got it there. So looking ahead, we also know from Pepsi Bottling Ventures that things change constantly, and we're constantly looking at changes, because if you read the news, if you look at everything in the news and so forth about the the food and beverage industry. I mean, every food and beverage industry seems to be talked about or looked at. Okay, are you doing anything to better somebody's health? Are you doing anything to give us variety? The consumer is getting more and more, not just, well, give me a Pepsi. I want something different. I want something unique. So how does it make our job hard? Well, it does, because now more and more consumers are going for those oddball flavors, those earth flavors, those new and improved flavors, those exotic flavors, which if I had to do nothing but sit around and forecast Pepsi all day, my job would be so easy. I mean, it would be so much easier. But now I've got these hydration fluids, I've got these flavored waters, I've got all of these things, flavored coffees that have to be forecasted, and each one of them are smaller and smaller volume. So it gets harder and harder to keep an accurate forecast. So Pepsi Bottling Ventures, through our work, through everybody's work in the trenches, so to speak, from sales to marketing to purchasing, all of those people played a role in proving to our executive team we need to stay up with the times. So even though we have what we consider the best soft drink forecasting tool, the best teams, the best people, they realized we needed to be able to do more. So I'm happy to say we start this year completely redoing our supply chain operations. We're bringing in new platforms, we're bringing in new tools. We're doing so much to keep up with the times that they're reinvesting into the company to do better, because we're looking at the future. For the first time this year, we're bringing product in from Japan. So now I'm dealing globally for the first time in my life. We're bringing in product from our Suntory owner to sell at Pepsi Bottling Ventures. We just launched it a few weeks ago. So that adds another complexity of this stuff has to come over on a ship. It's got to go through customs, all this stuff. So we know we have to stay up with the times. So that's where we stand. We're constantly putting back in to be successful. If you work for a company that you have to deal with spreadsheets every day, it's just starting your S&OP process, this is your first time at the IBF, that's great. I mean, that's a start. Don't think that you can just walk in and demand all this stuff. It's going to take effort, but from a demand planning aspect, I'm telling you, the old-fashioned form of communication, that's going to be your first start. That's going to be your best bet. I mean, take baby steps. If it's just picking one salesperson, if you work in operations and getting to know their style of doing something, that's an improvement. The more you learn, the better you improve. So that's where you need to go.